Isaiah 54 is a chapter in the Old Testament. It follows Isaiah 53, which speaks of the suffering servant. This chapter is filled with hope and restoration. It addresses a desolate woman, symbolizing Israel. God promises to restore her. The chapter speaks to anyone who feels forgotten. It is a reminder of God's unfailing love. Isaiah 54 reassures us of God's covenant. His promises are eternal and unchanging. For Christians today, Isaiah 54 offers comfort. It speaks to God's faithfulness. It encourages us to trust in His plans. As we reflect on this chapter, we find hope. We learn to embrace God's promises. This journey through Isaiah 54 will deepen our faith. Sing, O barren one who did not bear. Break forth into singing and cry aloud. This verse speaks to those who feel barren. It is a call to rejoice despite circumstances. God sees potential where we see emptiness. Imagine a woman who cannot have children. She feels incomplete and sorrowful. Yet God tells her to sing. He promises to fill her life with joy. This verse encourages us to trust God's timing. In our lives, we face barren seasons. These are times of waiting and longing. Yet God asks us to rejoice. He has plans to bless us abundantly. This verse teaches us to have faith. Even in barren times, God's blessings are on the way. We must sing and trust in His promises. Enlarge the place of your tent, and let the curtains of your habitations be stretched out. These verses call for expansion. God asks us to prepare for His blessings. We must make room for His abundance. Think of a small tent. It can only hold a few people. God says to enlarge it. Stretch the curtains and lengthen the cords. This symbolizes preparing for more blessings. In our lives, we often limit ourselves. We think small and expect little. But God wants us to think big. He wants us to prepare for His great blessings. These verses encourage us to have a bigger vision. We must make space in our hearts and lives. God's blessings are greater than we can imagine. Fear not, for you will not be ashamed. Be not confounded, for you will not be disgraced. These verses speak to our fears. God reassures us that we will not be ashamed. He promises honor and dignity. Imagine someone who feels ashamed of their past. They live in fear of judgment. God tells them to fear not. He promises forgiveness and restoration. We all have fears and insecurities. We worry about being judged or disgraced. But God's love covers our shame. He promises to lift us up. These verses teach us to trust in God's protection. We can live confidently, knowing He will not let us be ashamed. Verses 7 to 10. God's everlasting kindness. For a brief moment, I deserted you, but with great compassion, I will gather you. These verses speak of God's compassion. He acknowledges our struggles, but promises to gather us with kindness. Think of a parent who disciplines their child. The child feels momentarily abandoned. Yet, the parent's love is unwavering. They gather the child with compassion. God's love is similar. We may feel deserted during tough times, but His kindness is everlasting. He gathers us with great compassion. These verses remind us of God's enduring love. His kindness surpasses our struggles. We are never truly abandoned. Verses 11 to 14, a promise of peace and security. O afflicted one, storm-tossed and not comforted, behold, I will set your stones in antimony. These verses offer comfort. God promises to build us up with precious stones. He assures us of peace and security. Imagine a storm-tossed ship. It is battered and broken. God promises to restore it. He uses precious stones to rebuild it. This symbolizes His care and attention to detail. Our lives can feel storm-tossed. We face challenges and feel unsteady, but God promises to rebuild us. He offers peace and security. These verses encourage us to trust in God's rebuilding. He uses our trials to create something beautiful. Verses 15 to 17. No weapon formed against you. No weapon that is fashioned against you shall succeed. These verses speak of protection. God promises that no weapon will prevail against us. He assures us of victory. Think of a soldier in battle. They face many weapons. Yet God promises protection. No weapon will succeed against them. In our lives, we face many battles. We worry about attacks and challenges. But God's protection is sure. No weapon formed against us will succeed. These verses teach us to trust in God's defense. We are victorious through His protection. Conclusion: embracing God's promises. Isaiah 54 is a chapter of promises. It speaks of God's love and faithfulness. It encourages us to trust in His plans. We are reminded to rejoice in barren times, to prepare for abundant blessings, to trust in God's protection and compassion. This chapter offers hope and reassurance. It calls us to embrace God's promises. His love is unwavering and eternal. As we reflect on Isaiah 54, we find strength. We are encouraged to live confidently in God's love. His promises are true and everlasting.